Hello friends and welcome back to day 13 of our Polar Parrot Fish Fry journey. It's such a joy to have you here again. Every day we are witnessing a story of growth, learning and survival inside this aquarium. And today it's day 13 of batch 1 and day 1 or day 0 of the second batch. As you can see, our female is already ready for her second spawn and she has already laid eggs. Now this is indeed wonderful, and this is something quite interesting because usually we are told, or study tells us, that they don't spawn unless the previous fry has actually grown up and are ready to fend for themselves. But in this case we have seen that these fry are just 13 days old and she has already had her second spawn, and this is something incredible. So the last time I had asked y'all, we had this fry who are now actually reaching almost day 23. So when is the right time to separate them from the parents? Because some views are there that if you keep the fry with the parents when the parents want to spawn, then the parents tend to get hostile towards the fry. So to avoid that, you need to separate the fry. But here this is a completely different finding there, that the fry are still there of the previous spawn and she has laid eggs. So this is incredible news, and indeed it is something which we can record and say yes, they do still lay eggs even if the previous spawn fry are there. So we'll come back to that a little bit later. But coming back to this first batch of fry, we saw that yesterday was a big milestone. They became free swimmers, so they're tiny explorers moving independently, finding their way in the water, and it's like watching toddlers take their first steps. Now today we are diving deeper into what it means to be free swimmers, how the fry are strengthening, how the parents are reacting, and what we as aquarists can learn from this stage. So look closely at the fry today. Notice how much more confident their movements are. Yesterday they were just twitching forward in short bursts, but today they are darting and gliding, even managing little loops. And it's like watching kids on bicycles. Yesterday they were wobbling with training wheels. Today they are zooming, still unsteady at times but clearly gaining control. And therefore we see that each fry is still smaller than a grain of rice, but compared to day 5 wrigglers, the difference is huge. Their strength is growing with every flick of the tail. Now we need to move our focus to the parents as well, and this actually is a really interesting situation. How are the parents going to react? On one hand, you have the fry that are around 13 days old. On the other hand, you have a fresh batch of eggs. What do? Are you going to be strict, or are you going to show some independence to these fry? Are you going to let this fry loose? So I think that is something that we need to observe for the next 2 or 3 days. And if we realize that the parents kind of abandon this first spawn, then we will kind of separate them and put them in the other tank, because we have another breeding tank where we also have polar parrot fish, and we have seen that yesterday we introduced one fish over there and somehow it survived. Somehow it has kind of mingled itself with the others. So that is a possibility. So we will try that with the others. But firstly, we will observe. Currently, we don't want to disturb the spawning at the moment. So we'll leave it to it and we'll see what happens. Clearly, you can see the eggs over there in that earthen vessel over there. So the parents are still learning, but I think at this stage they have learned considerably quite a lot. So she's ready for a second spawn, and so you see that unexperienced cichlids uh, don't generally gather fry into one neat group. So this is what she did in her first batch. Now gradually we have seen the fry getting more close together. So therefore she has learned from her mistakes, and obviously it looks like that this time she'll be a bit more careful. We may have a bigger number this time, or we do not know. So all this is part of the thing. She's still laying her eggs on that earthen vessel over there. Now the female will generally stay close to the fry, and this is particularly important now and interesting, because how will she react? Will she give her attention to the first batch or to the second one? So that will be interesting to watch out for. Now the male is doing the duty of patrolling, chasing away any imaginary threats. Now why do I use the word imaginary? Because sometimes there may not be threats. Let me give you an example. There are another 5 polar parrots in this same aquarium. Now these 2 have occupied almost 2/3 of the tank, and I've just left 1/3 for the others. And when I feed them, I will generally put the food in that 1/3 part of the tank. Now what happens is, sometimes that food will drift away and go to the other side, and even if these other polar parrots come to just have that food, they have no interest in the fry, but still they will go and attack them. These parents will go and drive them away. So you can see, that's why I call them imaginary threats. They may not be real threat, but anything coming in the direction of the fry is a threat for them. Now so this stage is just as much as about the parents learning to parent as it is about the fry learning to swim. So let's now focus our attention on the fry. At this stage, the fry have already absorbed their yolk sacs. They are feeding on microscopic organisms in the tank, and sometimes you'll notice that the mother will also gather some of the pellets, crush it, and just spit it out in front of them. And in this way we see that they are being supplemented by external food, and therefore their swim bladders are now developing fully, which also gives them balance, and it helps them hover in the water column instead of sinking. So now their swimming has become a bit confident. If you noticed a few days earlier, they would go to a certain distance and then they would just sink to the floor. Today it's a bit more coordinated, it's a bit more purposeful. And think of it as a child not just learning to walk, but to stand still without falling over. So balance is as important as movement. So now what are the practical advice that you can have, especially during this interesting stage here? Okay, so to support the fry, you need to keep water stable, that is temperature, pH as well as oxygen, offer small but frequent meals, and avoid strong filters, as the fry or even the wrigglers can get stuck or can get sucked into it. So need to have kind of a good filtration, and the sponge filter is the best. At least in my experience, the sponge filter works wonders. Now so in my case, I'm letting the parents guide these fry naturally. I could have removed them, but as I said earlier, I'll wait for the parents' behavior to change to see if they're becoming hostile or if they're neglecting this fry. Then we will shift them to the other tank. So as of now, they remain here, and well, the whole idea is not to disturb or not to stress the parents, so let's see what happens over there. So now watching these free swimming fry, reminds us that growth always comes with risk. Every tiny swim is an act of courage, because if they swim a little bit far away, anybody can come, snatch them, and they're gone. They become a snack for the other fish. And just like in life, not everyone makes it, but those who do become stronger. Same thing over here. We had maybe around 50 to 60 eggs. We just have hardly 7 or 8 fry here. So as you can see, it does happen. So it's a lesson for us too. Growth takes small shaky steps before it becomes graceful. So therefore, thank you for joining me for this update on day 13. I truly appreciate your company on this journey. And today has been extra special because we are somewhere halfway in batch 1 and batch 2 has already started. So this is really fascinating. I'm really excited about it. So do let me know if you're excited as well about this, and if you're excited to see how the mother will take care of the eggs in round 2. Will she deliver at the second time of asking? So we'll have to wait and watch and find out. Now, do let me know if you have, kind of raised fry before, and if you have, did you let the parents naturally take care of the fry, or did you step in with artificial care? So I'd love to hear your comments, your stories, because it would also help me to, kind of prepare myself, or keep it in my notes. So anytime there's a need, I could make use of it. And tomorrow we'll see how these fry continue to grow stronger, and maybe, just maybe, we can watch them school together a little more like a cloud. Okay, so that will be another breathtaking stage. At the same time, let us see how many eggs does the mother lay during this batch. So, and we'll hope that this time she'll take better care of it. We'll do our best to provide. Maybe today we may have to do a water change, so we'll look into that as well. So in the meanwhile, don't forget to like, share and subscribe so that you won't miss tomorrow's update. And until then, keep enjoying the beauty of life in every little swim of our aquarium. So see you on day 14, and happy fish keeping.